but I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners and elders of the lands on whose we are all today, and pay my respects to the elders past and present, and of course extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people here today, and of course all of you for giving up your time this morning, and thank you very much to join early on a Thursday morning. So I'll introduce myself a little bit further soon, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about you. So as I said, we're going to do a Slido. So you can use the QR code on your screen, or I'll just put in the chat the link so that you can get to it nice and easily. So ideas, Pinterest, lovely. Who's interested in Pinterest?
That'd be me.
Great.
I've got one from a long time ago and I've started it up again, but yeah, I've just found that it's a little bit confusing. So I'm hoping to get some information with the whole, I've got a business account now, I swapped it over, but yeah, I'm not quite sure. I'm just hoping to get some, assistance with that.
Great. I've got sales, ideas, reassurance, algorithm, yes, the mighty algorithm, information, and Instagram. So that's fantastic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the next poll up. So in one word, what do you see as your biggest challenge with social media? Time and preparation. I'm going to guess that's Lucy.
Yes.
Cut through. Oh, yes. Niche.
Reaching the niche.
Reaching the niche. That's right.
Algorithm.
Yeah, love it. Love it. The good old algorithm.
Me again.
I've got one word for you in response to algorithm. That is engagement.
Yeah.
Every platform wants you to keep people on their platform. All right. And then I've got one last one for you, and that is to ask you what social media you are currently using for your business. Everyone's on YouTube. That's great. Poor Twitter and X. No love for Twitter. I can't call it X, I'm sorry. So I'm going to guess, Lucy, that's you with Pinterest. Does anyone else put an other in and they want to let me know what other social media they might be using? Anyone on Reddit? All right. So just a little bit of background around me. So I don't count anymore, but I've done over 10 years in digital communications and marketing, back from, I think, probably when we were all throwing sheep on Facebook, for anyone that was around long enough to remember that. And I've been involved in social media across a really broad range of things, from strategies for planning campaigns, looking at how organisation can engage in social media, and policy. For larger organisations, they have social media policies so that they know how they're going to respond in certain circumstances, so they can give guidance to staff on appropriate ways to use social media. And, of course, part of that, if you grow a strong asset on social media, although you don't technically own it, if you've got a Facebook group which has got thousands of people in it, that's a key asset for your business in reality, and very valuable to your business. So it's also about looking at protecting that and making sure that you don't lose access to it, and other elements like that. So I've been doing a lot of different things. I've been a whale on social media, and I can tell you that being a whale on social media and the love that you get is very different from being a local council on social media. It's also very different being an accountant on social media, a tourism operator, so I've had the experience of seeing how different audiences react in very different circumstances across a wide variety of platforms, but also sectors and organisations. And one thing that it won't surprise you, but constant change and evolution is the general trend on social media, which is often why people come to webinars like this looking for guidance. So I want to say thank you for being here today. At the end of the presentation, I'll give you a link, but basically as part of our commitment for doing good in the world, anyone who attends the workshop gets the opportunity to go to our impact page on our website, and you can choose to make an impact today. So you can start off your day by giving a meal to an orphan koala joey, creating some education, or providing a square metre of rainforest protection in the Daintree. So what are we going to cover? We're going to look at how to generate results with social media, what social media channels to focus on in your business to get results. So we'll just look at sort of where the current state of play is around different social media platforms. We're going to look at some current and emerging social media trends and how to streamline and improve your social media. Now, because this is a really broad session, we're going to have people that are in a variety of businesses, from service-based businesses to e-commerce, and I imagine there's quite a few others in the mix. This is going to be a broad setting the scene with some practical actions that you can take. We won't be able to get into the nuts and bolts of each platform, but there will be a lot of take-homes in here that can help you and that you can apply in any of those platforms. And that will include streamlining and improving your social media. So as we go along, please post questions in the chat, and please let's have a conversation, because social media is always evolving, and it's great to hear how different people are using social media and what's working for them as we go through. So is there any questions at this moment, or are we good to dive in? Well, we'll dive in then. All right, so generating results with social media is where we're going to start. For those that join me on the strategic marketing webinar, and I believe the recording is in Circle so that you can access it if you'd like to go back to it after this. I'm a big believer in putting strategy before tactics, and knowing what you want to get from your social media is a big, big benefit so that you can align all your efforts. The analogy I often use is if you put a whole bunch of football players, as talented as they might be on a football field, but they've all got blindfolds on and they've got no idea where the goals are, no one's going to be kicking goals. But if you put all those football players on the field and they know exactly where the goals are and they can put all their concerted efforts into getting the ball through the goals, you're going to get results. So the same thing with social media. It's really easy to put a lot of effort in a lot of different directions because the social media landscape is big. Your ability to generate constant content is pretty much unlimited, but the focus is really key and important, especially on platforms that are really designed to encourage you to get distracted and take you down different rabbit holes and different things because you're like, oh, look at this. So being really focused and disciplined with your social media is really, really important. So keep it simple, keep it focused and purposeful, and just have a look at, whether you might need to bring in some strategies in terms of time management for how you don't get sucked into spending too much time on social media. The other thing, and I'm going to put this in really early because I just want to plant the seed. Great to see a few people on YouTube because YouTube really plays to this, but create once, use many times. Content does scale, but your time does not. So what I mean by that is if you create a great piece of content, once you've put the time into creating that and publishing it, you can reuse that many, 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 many times, and it can have a long time span online while you're doing other things. So content scales, but time does not. So just have a think about that as we go through and consider how you might apply that in what you're doing in terms of your content planning. Connie, I can see that you're interested to know where to go to replace Twitter. Twitter's not going anywhere. X is still there. We've obviously seen Threads being brought out by Meta. There's not a lot of love from between Zuckerberg and Elon Musk for people that follow on along on that, and the conversation around that generally happens on Twitter or X. But we still see there's a pretty healthy user base still on Twitter. A lot of people are still using the platform very actively. Some business users have moved and migrated more to LinkedIn, but X is still strong. It's just called X now, not Twitter. I'm struggling to change and adapt to that. So just in relation to getting results, as much as engagement is great and likes give us all dopamine hits, some of the things that you would have in your business plan will be around the number of customers you want to get, the average order value those customers might get, and how often they purchase. And if you tweak these and you increase these, they're going to have a much more meaningful impact in your business than getting likes on social media. So while likes and engagement is great, and reach is fantastic on social media, so reach is how many people have seen your content, and that helps drive awareness and can contribute to this. All social media is about getting results in your business that are going to make a big difference to your overall forward trajectory. And so understanding your customer and understanding the journey and the process they go through is really, really useful in this context. So when I talk about reach and people becoming aware of your business, that's the start of the journey. They start to notice you. They might, if they're potentially looking to buy, become interested in what you're doing. And the awareness can be generated both through advertising and also through organic posting. What they might then do is they might go and try to find you. So you might connect with them and generate that awareness, but they might actually not be ready to be interested for a little while, and then they go find you. Or they want to know that they can trust you before they buy from you, so they'll go and look for you. And they might look for you through Google, they might look at your profile, they might look for you across a different social media platform, they might be looking at your reviews. So social media can contribute to all these different stages in the customer journey. And then if there's enough trust, there's enough authority or content conveyed that makes them convinced that they want to do business with you, that's when you get your purchase. And they go, yep, the value's here, I'm ready to pay with my hard-earned cash. And that's when you'll turn them into a customer. And if the experience meets or exceeds the expectation, then what you're going to get is you're going to get that customer turning into a repeat customer, hopefully, but also perhaps an advocate, and they will post reviews. They're going to potentially even do a social media post saying how much they love your product. And that's when you can generate word of mouth. They might be referring you. We see a lot of local businesses getting great referrals in local Facebook groups, for example. Someone goes in there and goes, do you know a good lawnmower man or lawnmower girl, I should say, but they want their lawns cut. Who can help me? And people can easily mention local businesses if they've got a Facebook page set up. So that's an example of the kind of word of mouth that you can get very simply by having a Facebook page and people being able to refer to you in Facebook groups.
There's a question there, Xanthi, from John.
Can you believe the stats applied by social media sites, especially Facebook? John, I've got quite a few stats in the slide deck, so I might park that one for now. I would, in general, I don't believe the stats applied directly by, I don't go to each platform for their stats. I actually go to the kind of industry authorities for stats. So we'll go through some statistics a little bit later, but that might help you, and we can have a bit of a conversation around that, because it is interesting. But there's some great websites like Statista that have some really good information, and I'll take you through some stats from Sprout Social and Meltwater a little bit later, which might help you cut through that. So for those, in terms of taking a strategic approach, one of the simplest frameworks I've found to help people look at tracking what they're doing from a marketing point of view altogether, but also from a social media point of view, is looking at where you're at now. So, and that can be as simple as, how many followers have you got on your different channels? What's your monthly reach? So how many people are you reaching on a monthly basis? What's your engagement like, and what you click through to your website if you've got a website on a monthly basis? When you cut through the hearts of it, it might be, we managed to get 50 sales this month and we can attribute X number to social media. Objectives is, where do you want to go? So say you've got 20 people on your Facebook page or on your LinkedIn page at the moment. where do you want to go? If you know that you need to reach 10,000 a month and get 100 of them to your website and maybe 10 sales, where do you want to go? What's your next step in increasing that, or what's your long-term step in increasing that? How are you going to get there? So what are the strategies that you're going to use to get there? So are you going to go all in on Reels? Are you going to focus on networking? Are you going to hold webinars and events? What are the different strategies and tactics, which goes a little bit deeper, that are going to get you there? And then who's actually going to do it and when? Which can be a bit of a resource and reality check. But then check is, did we get there? What worked? What didn't? What are we going to do more of? And this time of year, we're coming to the end of the calendar year. This is a really good time to go into your insights and your different social media platforms and look at what content and what strategies, tactics, and actions really worked over 2023, so you can do some great planning for 2024. And I always put this slide in because social media is always part of a bigger picture. And as we sort of talked through with the customer journey and the last slide, social media combines with your content, your branding. You generally do a follow-up and you build the relationship a little bit more in email. You might be sending them to a website or a platform, whether that's Eventbrite to capture people's interest or whether it's your website and online store. And people might be looking for you in search engines. So social media is part of a bigger picture. So knowing your audience is key to getting results on social media. And I think we've got an absolute treasure trove of information on social media that we can use to help us understand our audience. And then that also helps us create content that they will care about and engage with. And as I said, for the algorithms, the big thing is that every platform is trying to get people to stay on their platform longer so that they can show more ads, which is what drives their revenue. So if you create content that people engage with, the algorithms are going to reward you. And generally, if that engagement happens earlier in the piece, so you put a post up and people are immediately liking and engaging with it, the algorithms pay attention to that also. So a little bit of a cheat can be putting a post up and encouraging people to immediately jump on and like and comment, whether that's, part of a business mastermind or colleagues or friends at the start. That can help get your content shown to more people. You can time social media posts with doing an email out that encourages people to get straight to their social media posts, and that will help drive them to more people. But creating content that people will care about and engage with is done by knowing your audience. So where are they hanging out on social media? Like, where is your audience on social media is a really key question, and I'll show you some information on that to help you understand that a little bit more. And there is options through advertising, of course, to really target your efforts, in addition to your platform choice. So advertising can really dial in on some of the really important metrics, which might be that where they're based from a location point of view, because you know that you're not really interested in advertising to people perhaps outside of Victoria or the Mornington Peninsula or Frankston region. You might be looking at advertising specifically on certain demographic factors, such as they're university educated, or perhaps they're a tradie, maybe they're a small business owner, or they're interested in surfing. So you can really target your efforts using advertising in some pretty amazing ways. Because if they're interested in surfing, maybe they're also interested in mountain bike riding, or they're generally an outdoorsy adventure person, so they might be interested in, the towels, the sunscreen, the hats and things like that go with it. So you've got a lot of opportunities to reach potential audiences and to get to understand them more, because you can understand who's reacting to what, and then you can retarget advertising at them. And the greater your depth of understanding of your audience, of course, the less effort, time and money you're going to be putting connecting with people that aren't your target audience. So it can help you to really dial things in. Now, some people do take the billboard approach, which is if you put a billboard up in front of the freeway, obviously it's every single car that's going to go past that sees that billboard, and it might not be every car that's interested, but it might be 1 in 10 cars, and that's good enough. If you've got the opportunity to pay for a billboard, absolutely go for it. If you are going to be a little bit more niche in your efforts, then knowing your audience is really key. So part of knowing your audience is understanding their why. Why are they following a brand on social? And this is from Sprout Social. So they do it so they can stay informed about new products or services, to have access to exclusive deals or promotions. The content they post is enjoyable and entertaining. So we see what's called edutainment happening a lot. So people are putting up educational and entertaining content. So it might educate people a little bit about the brand, but it's also very enjoyable and entertaining to engage with the community around that brand or customers. So who here, just be interested to know, who here is part of a community that has been created by a business? So maybe a Facebook group around a business. Or,
yeah, I definitely am.
Yeah. Got one. Throw it in the chat if you don't want to take yourself off mute.
And it's because I align with their mission and values, Xanthi.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That's so interesting. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Yeah, the vision and value and the vision and values and mission is really key because it resonates at a deeper level and it forms a deep relationship. So someone just raised their hand. Did someone want to?
So, Xanthi, obviously, if you look at those top two stats, 68% and 46%, if you cover off on having interesting deals and promotions and keep your audience highly informed about your product, then you're hitting those top two areas, aren't you? I'm sure it's product and service dependent as well, but...
Yeah. I would include content that they find enjoyable or engaging and entertaining. Because they will engage with it.
Sure.
So I don't know whether anyone's got young children at home or they've got nieces and nephews, or there's a big trend at the moment to create short form reels that have basically a quiz or a brain teaser, and they've got to sit there and watch the reel for the answer. And it's designed, it's brilliant in its design because, they sit there and they look at it and they think about it and they stay on that reel until they get the answer. So they're watching the reel all the way through, which is showing engagement metrics, which means more of that content gets shown. And, with the way that we've got tools now, thanks to generative AI, people are massively batch creating these and posting them and getting huge reach, because it's a really good way to get engagement that's sort of tapping into being enjoyable and entertaining. Now, that's not necessarily something that you'd always do as a business because, there's no call to action with that. There's no thing that's going to get the result, but it might, like creating that content that is enjoyable and entertaining and stitching that in to the sort of mosaic that includes content that obviously has strong calls to action and hooks that's going to get them to create action can be really useful. I'm glad you like the stats because I've included a few because the social media landscape is getting more complex and it's good to just cut through to see what's working and understand how people are using it. So the most memorable brands on social, again, this one's from Sprout Social, respond to customers, 51%. They prioritise original content over following trending topics, and they prioritise engaging directly with their audience versus publishing a lot of content. So with generative AI, obviously it's very easy now to create lots of content and create lots of noise, and we're seeing more people do that. And omnipresent is the word of the moment, where people are trying to be omnipresent everywhere. But audiences are saying, well, we do like it when you engage with us rather than just publish lots. Having said that, they also say timely on-trend content is great. So there's some really good insights in there. Influencers are still there, and speak about causes and news that align with their values. Again, that emerging younger generations that are driving corporate social responsibility are becoming a stronger influence. And there was some really great stats about how they're also influencing parents in their purchasing decisions. The other thing that can really help generate results on social media is consistent branding. Canva can be a really useful tool for this. So for people who are creating their own content, who here is using Canva already? Just throw it in the chat if you like.
Yeah,
We got
I
a few
do.
Canva users.
This is Lucy. I do a lot.
Yeah. So Canva is a really simple way to create effective content that is on brand, and you can set up a template and quickly, like one quote template, and use that to create 12 quote tiles, for example, very quickly. And then you've got one quote a month to put up on social media, and you can batch create that. So it's a way that can be really effective and quick to create content. You can create videos on there. You can create graphics, and you can set up your brand so that you've got your brand guidelines and your brand set up in Canva, so that it's actually really simple for you to stay aligned with your branding on Canva. And it's a great way to make sure that wherever people are looking at you, they can recognize you. So in the journey from them having no awareness of you to looking for you and being able to recognize you, to being able to recall you, because the chance that you actually reach them and they become aware of you at the precise time that they're ready to buy, it may happen because you've got your marketing very well dialed in, but it's also not unusual for it to be like a 12-month gap between when someone first becomes interested in you or aware of you to when they're actually ready to buy. So branding can really help you move from that place where they don't have any awareness of you to them being able to recognize you, to someone being able to recall you when it is time to purchase, you being top of mind. So it's a simple thing that can do some of the heavy lifting for you without you having to do too much. And as you can see in the image here, from a branding point of view, all they've done is used one color or one color palette fairly consistently across different elements to create an overall feel and experience that is a little bit recognizable.
So, Xanthi, can I ask, for small businesses who perhaps have never been really engaged in social media yet, what you're saying is there can be a lag and that we just need to really stick it out to start to see results?
Yes, no.
From a branding perspective, I mean the consistency of that branding.
Yeah, look, depending on what the business is, for example, your strategy on social media might be that you want to have, and for many organisations, they don't have a lot of time or resources to put into social media. Perhaps the thing that's working from their marketing perspective is to be doing the networking, going out and talking to people. So they might be using social media more from a networking perspective than they are using it from a, hey, someone's on my page, they see my content everywhere and they're going to buy. So at the very start, people in a business may be using it more as a networking tool than what they are from a, hey, you see my content, you now click on it and buy. Over time, what happens is that changes and your content starts doing more of the heavy lifting for you and people are engaging more with your content. So at the start, if you're in the networking phase, and again, given the variety of different businesses that might be watching this, this is very general advice. But if you are kind of at that networking phase and you're reaching out and connecting with more businesses online, so a really simple way to grow your audience, for example, on Instagram, is go and start following other businesses and engaging with their pages, and they'll go and look at your profile and they might follow you back. Really simple way to network with other businesses that are complementary to your business, and to engage, or potentially your customers, and get them to follow you back. So it can be more of that networking that you might be doing if you're doing that in a DIY sense and organic at the start. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank
You'd
you.
be complementing that with just some posting, and I would encourage you to batch the content creation process so you're not sort of sitting there putting 30 minutes into one post each day. You're actually, like I said, creating those quote tiles, do 12 at once, schedule them, and then maybe do another type of tile, schedule those, do another type of tile, schedule those, and then you do some organic in the moment posting that around reels and things like that as and when. And then as you grow, the complexity and the strategies and the tactics you use will probably get more sophisticated also. So strategy before tactics, know what you're aiming for and put strategy before tactics, check. Did you get there? What do you do more of? So a lot of people, for example, will engage with advertising. They'll run one campaign, they don't feel like they get there, and they stop. But what you're always doing with marketing is you're always trying things. That didn't quite work. What can we adjust and try again? So sometimes it's not about that didn't work. It's you need to be doing things for a little bit longer, but thinking about it in that business decision making context of, is this helping me reach my business objectives and goals? Consider the customer journey. So where are they? Are they the awareness raising? Have you got content there for people who are looking for authority and trust? So are there testimonials going up on your page that does trust signals? Have you got those same trust signals in terms of reviews, and perhaps replicating that also on your website and other platforms? Are the people that then convert able to be advocates for you? And if you've got, for example, as I said, a Facebook page can be a really smart move for a local business so that you can be mentioned. Same thing on LinkedIn. If you've got a LinkedIn business page, it might be your main profile where you're doing most of the networking and you're getting most of the reach, but people can mention your business just simply because you've got a Facebook page, and that helps from a word of mouth point of view. Yes, I'll talk about the balance between video and other types of posts, John. Thank you very much for that. Consider the customer journey. As I said, know your audience. Brand and brand consistency is important, and Canva is awesome for those people who are doing it themselves. So what social media channels to focus on? It really comes down to where is your audience, what are your goals, and what resources and budget you have. So we're looking at 4.95 billion users worldwide on social media. So if you don't think your audience is on social media, there's a good chance that at least some of them are. In Australia, it comes down to 21.3 million. And just to blow your mind a little bit, the average time spent using social media each day is 2 hours. And they're using an average of 6 social media platforms each month. Now, obviously, these are really generic stats. So I would say that depending on age, geographic location, so whether they're in an area where they might not have as much digital connection, what they do during their day, for an example, a tradie might be out on site all day. They're not as actively on social media, or perhaps they're just on social media in the evenings or during breaks during the day, but rarely perhaps on a desktop. So thinking about the context behind how your audience might be using social media is also really useful. Their main reasons for using social media. So this is a little bit different to what we saw earlier in terms of why they're engaging with brands. This is why they're on social media. And this is good to think about in terms of the content. And finding content is right up there. Filling spare time is right up there, which is why we're finding that educational and entertaining content is doing so well. Reading news stories, finding inspiration for things to do and buy, seeing what's being talked about, finding like-minded communities, and of course, friends and family, which is what it was all about in the first place, is right at the top. Any thoughts or insights from that?
I was just going to say, so sometimes it's a pot luck whether someone's going to buy your product. They might just come across you and be interested based on those statistics.
I would suggest that if you're doing strategic marketing, it won't necessarily be potluck, because you'll be thinking about where they are and you'll be directing your efforts to reach them.
Yeah.
and you'll be creating content that engages them and helps them connect with you.
I'm surprised following celebrities or influencers is so low down. I would have thought that would be higher.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? And I think that, micro influencers have been the last 2 to 3 years. We've seen advertisers really supporting micro influencers, while the larger celebs like the Kardashians, of course, are still important. We've seen more and more people investing advertising dollars in micro influencers. So this is the most used social media platforms. Again, this is bring it down to Australia, and it's from We Are Social and Meltwater. YouTube's not in this list, and they actually say that at the top of the note, which is in very fine print. But 1 in 2 Australians use YouTube, and 1 in 2 Australians use Facebook daily. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean your audience is on Facebook. So if your audience is business professionals, then when they're using Facebook, it might be for they might be using it in a very different context, and then potentially not going to be interested in engaging in a work sense. So even though, 1 in 2 Australians use Facebook daily, Facebook might not be the channel that you focus on or the platform you focus on. You might just focus purely on LinkedIn, even though it looks a long way down this list. That's where you get the results. So that's where I sort of talk about the context and you understand your audience and how and where you're going to connect with them, and the content that you use to connect with them is really important.
Xanthi, just to jump in, is there any way to find data in a more specified age format? 16 to 64 is a pretty wide bracket in terms of the users over those different mediums. Is there sort of a more broken down data set per age group?
I will show you a slide in a moment that might help. So this is the same information but a little bit different, because this is looking at the number of active Australian users on different platforms. So all of a sudden you can see YouTube at number 2. YouTube's also the second largest search engine on the planet. So if people don't find their answers on Google, and of course Google actually channels a lot of people if they ask a question through to YouTube, then they go and search for answers on YouTube. And who actively watches YouTube, either in a business sense or a personal sense, and use it to search for answers? Just throw it in the chat if you do. Or you can take yourself off mute if it's something that you actively use. Lucy's a yes.
Yeah, I use it actively.
Yeah. So, and YouTube, of course, is following the same trends as TikTok and others, and bring out that short reel format, the short form video content. So you've got both long form and short form. And back at the start, I talked about creating content once and use it multiple times. If you create a video on YouTube that is longer, perhaps you've recorded a podcast and you filmed yourself at the same time, with today's generative AI tools, using something like Video AI and others, you can chop that up and turn it into a range of social media posts. So you've got short form video content, and that can help you create content across other platforms. So you create once and you can post it in different platforms. Now, what you might find is the way that the tone that you use for a business audience on LinkedIn might be very different from the tone you use on a Facebook audience and an Instagram. But you can get nuanced if you need or want to on the different platforms. Again, depending on where you are on the business journey and how far you are along in social media, how complex you are going with this will vary, because at the start, simple, focus, choose a platform. You might have a page on a couple of platforms so that people can mention you, but you would generally focus your effort on one platform. And so what I'm trying to do here is just give you the information to help you make informed decisions as business owners, to help you achieve those business goals and objectives. Lucy, I'd love to know more about how to do that. Could you let me know what that is, please? Probably kept looking
Yeah,
after you
sure.
posted it.
Well, I do long form videos, and I would love to know how to not manually do that and to automatically sort of change it. Because I find that reels for me, or the YouTube shorts, have been a bit of a waste of time. I get a lot more views on the actual videos. So I've kind of, I've only done about 8 shorts before giving up because it takes me too long to do it. So is there actually an application I can use?
Yeah, there's the last 12 months, generative AI has brought you a range of helpers, Lucy. So I think it's vidyo.ai is one that gets really frequently mentioned in terms of, and what they can actually do is they'll scan through and they'll actually highlight sections of the video that they think will get the most engagement.
Oh, brilliant.
But also, if you found something works and it's working for you, like follow what your customers are saying. That's, do more of what works. But what you're saying, if it's not working, rethink it is smart's the way forward. Now I put no TikTok up there is because I didn't dive into this, but I'm assuming that means that TikTok's not sharing their information. I actually don't know why they didn't put TikTok on this list. It's the same information from Meltwater. All right, so here's a little bit to your point earlier around a little bit more of the sort of where the age ranges are on these different platforms. And it also comes down to, of course, not just age ranges, but how people are using these different platforms, as I said, to that context setting. So Facebook, it's where most people are, the majority of people. So for some people, it's a bit of a no-brainer because they know that in some way people will want to be mentioning them. So if you're just on Facebook with a page so that you've got a fairly automated setup, but so that people can mention you and they can look at that page and it's got up-to-date content on it. It's not looking like a rusty sign flapping out in the breeze. You're actually, at least putting a post up a week kind of thing to show that you are still active. Then, there's the communities on Facebook, and the local groups can drive incredible amount of business towards local businesses. But obviously there's also a really big component there around reputation on Facebook, because if someone goes onto one of those Facebook groups and they say bad things about your business, then you've got to start thinking about whether you need to do reputation management. So Facebook, the communities and the word of mouth, the same as reviews on Google for anyone who has in the situation where they actively manage their reviews on Google. Reputation management on social media is really key. And putting your customer first and customer experience first for every business is really important. YouTube, obviously you can do organic strategies on search engine optimization, can be greatly helped by YouTube. You've got the opportunity to do advertising. Video can be resource heavy, as you mentioned, Lucy. There are some generative AI tools that are helping. Generative AI tools can actually create the whole video for you. So you can have an AI voiceover, you can have AI generated content. I don't know about anyone else. If I see that on a YouTube video, I stop watching and I go watch a real person. And we're hearing that more and more. So even though generative AI can create all this stuff for you, there is that question of, but should it? Is it actually going to work as a strategy for you? And as I said, those people that are creating those short form reels with the quizzes, they're finding that they're getting incredible engagement from having a completely AI generated just about video. Not entirely AI generated, it's still augmented by our brains. Instagram, 18 to 24, 25 to 34 millennials, inspiration and adventure, questions polls. It's a very visual format. Obviously, reels, stories are getting a lot of engagement compared to static posts and tiles. As I said, great networking if that's where fellow businesses or your audience are. We see a lot of e-commerce using Instagram. Twitter, educated, wealthy. In Australia, I generally put it down to, and this might be a little bit skeptical of me, but journalists, politicians, influencers, and researchers, academics are on Twitter or X. So you can see a lot of conversation happening between the journalists, the academics, the politicians. So if you need to connect with politicians, journalists, influencers, and researchers, Twitter is actually a really great platform for you. LinkedIn, B2B professional networking. So we're seeing more video come into the LinkedIn platform. It gets quite good reach. You can do it in the vertical format, just the same as you can on Instagram and TikTok. You can also do it in the standard horizontal video format as well. And then obviously we've got TikTok is continuing to grow. And it's a lot of people are going there to be entertained and to, consume a lot of content that is in that short form format. Anyone using TikTok actively? Yeah, it's always interesting. There's a lot of reluctance I hear, and then there's some people that have done TikTok and they've used it really actively, and they found that it creates great awareness, but not necessarily the results. So they're getting massive reach, but they're not necessarily getting the cut through. So all these things, how well a platform works really depends on what you're looking for and your business objectives and goals. Oh, John, great, you do. How have you found it? Rod, not your demographic, great.
Yeah, I was actually really surprised because I did another social media course and they suggested that I use it. And I thought it was just very young people, 18 to 24. And in about a month and a half, I've created probably in my one channel 2,500 followers.
Yeah.
And they're definitely not in the younger age group. So they're a lot older, probably 50 plus. And I was really surprised about that. And they're all engaging and talking to me about things that I was really surprised about.
Yeah, great.
So I was quite shocked because I'd never even considered it. And I've even increased the amount I do on it for that reason.
Yeah, great. And it's getting results?
Yeah, I think it is.
Great. Yeah, I hear a range of, some people, they just find it doesn't get results. Some people report back like what you said, and it works really, really well for them. With a lot of these different social media platforms, there's a learning curve with each of them. So if you are doing it yourself as opposed to working with an agency who obviously it's their job to be across what works on each of these different platforms, what content works, what tactics works, what strategies works, then with each of these comes a learning curve and testing and finding out what works and what doesn't, which is one of the reasons why I'd suggest that even if you have a presence on a couple of different profiles, especially if you're in the DIY space, focus your efforts on the one that's getting you the results or has the potential to give you the results rather than try and do them all, because treat them all as different software. Like every time you add a new social media channel, if you go from just having Facebook to having Facebook and LinkedIn, you've just doubled in some ways the workload. Not entirely if you just post the same thing on both, but it adds significantly to your workload when you increase the number of social media profiles you have. And of course, especially at the start of a business journey, everything that you do needs to be really highly targeted to help you connect with more customers and find that product market fit and get through those early stages so that you grow and develop into a successful and thriving business. So choosing which social media channels to focus on, where's your audience, how are they using the platform, what's going to get results, what resources and budget do you have, so where are you going to focus your energy. Each one has a learning curve, and a good agency can help you make recommendations, but they'll also have that depth of knowledge around how to get the most out of different platforms to save you learning and becoming experts on all of the different nuances. And, someone can be an absolute whiz at Facebook marketing, but they may not be as great, perhaps, at a different type of marketing, because the Facebook advertising beast, for those that haven't delved into it, it's always evolving and changing. And it's a whole, you could just about do a university degree, I think, on Facebook ads, and then they change it. So there's always that change and evolution. So, when you find something and it's working, that's gold, and just keep working on doing that. So trends on social media. And these haven't. There's been one pretty big emerging trend this year that I think won't surprise anyone. But short form video content was big last year. It's big again this year. It's creating engagement. It's keeping people on the platforms, which keeps platforms happy, and therefore brands are using more and more short form video content, whether it's in the horizontal format or the vertical format. We're seeing people deliberately shooting so it can go across both, so you can crop it both ways. But short form video content, is it a trend? It's a consistent trend. It's still there, and it's still pretty important. To the question earlier about the mix between short form video graphics, part of that comes down to resourcing, and what's working with your businesses, and again, how much time and energy you're putting into social media. So some businesses, social media is just a little bit of an add-on to their overall marketing mix, and they're finding other things more effective, like going out and actively networking, and meeting people face-to-face, or perhaps radio advertising. And so social media is that way that they continue to sort of to have that relationship with customers, stay connected with their customers. And short-form video content, there's no exact format or formula for this. It's about working out what works with your customers and your audience, I would suggest. So there's no hard and fast rules, but it's definitely something that should be part of your marketing, social media marketing mix. Social media and customer experience. So customer, I always say, is at the center of everything. Your customer experience and thinking about how you're going to improve your customer experience. We've seen so many businesses of all sizes excel simply by absolutely having a key focus on customer, and social media is a key way that you can deliver customer experience. And as social media channels grow, the number of customer service messages that might come through direct messages grows, which means that then you're monitoring customer experience across multiple channels, which can increase complexity. So we're seeing tools being developed specifically to help, and they're not being developed, they're actively out there to help people develop to manage their customer experience very actively on social media. So that, for example, if a customer messages them on social media, it goes into the customer management system so that they can see that conversation alongside any emails they might have had, any purchase history they might have had, so that they've got what's called single view of customer, and they can really effectively manage those customer relationships to ensure that customer experience is key. So social media and customer experience are going to continue to be very closely woven together. Thoughts on percentages of posts that can be advertisements rather than informational posts? Again, I've got a little bit about this further on, so I might just talk to that a little bit later, Connie. The best thing you can be doing is paying attention to your insights. And I often say that to business owners, and I see eyeballs roll up into the top of their head. Because looking at the data and the analytics and the insights is some people's they just don't like doing it. But having a look at what people are engaging with, and when they might be turning off, and when you're seeing increases in things, will give you the best sense of that. I would generally look at kind of a 2-to-1 as a maximum, but I'll go into that a little bit more in a moment. So trend 3, continued investment in social media. We're continuing to see brands increase in digital ad spend. We're continuing to see them invest in content, especially that creating content once and using it multiple times, and going towards that kind of omnipresent component. Trend 4, communities, podcasters, and influencers are staying important. So who has noticed that there's just more and more podcasts this year? How many people are listening to podcasts actively? Lucy's, you've never listened to one. Interesting. Yeah, Erin, dime a dozen these days. That's right. Everyone's got a podcast. Some people now are actually creating fake podcasts where they have the mic they have to set up, they film themselves doing a podcast, and then they're using something like video.ai to cut that up and create the short form content without actually having a podcast. So if you're kind of following that strategy of being that sort of key person of influencer or personal branding, and you want to be across everything as opposed to marketing the business per se, then yeah, it's quite interesting to see that there's a bit of a trend towards that. And there's a big difference, because if you are doing the personal branding and you're marketing yourself as opposed to marketing your business, then, you know, obviously again, your strategies and tactics change a little bit. But yeah, so communities, though, as I mentioned, especially from a local business point of view, but for any business, you know, if you go into a community where your audience is hanging out and you listen in there to what their problems are, what their pains are, that can create a rich source of inspiration for content for you to show that you understand what their pains and their challenges are. So show that you understand them, and also show that you've got the solution for that, and drive a why for them to do business with you. And of course, we had to include generative AI. So it's really changing the way that social media is both managed, content is created, and the content that's being published extensively. And I'll go into that a little bit more for you. From a really simple point of view, you can jump into ChatGPT and you can just create tons of content, and so it's creating noise. Top 5 trends in social media, as I said: short form video content, social media and customer experience, investment in social media marketing, communities, podcasts and influencers, and generative AI. Is there anything else that you've noticed, or do you think any of these are particularly applicable or relevant to you? Any thoughts?
I've just noticed on YouTube how they're using, you know, a whole lot of animations through their videos, sounds, animations, thought bubbles popping up, that kind of thing. And I think it's really generates engagement, but also it's just another way of keeping us distracted, which is great for the business. But yeah, we're wasting a lot more time.
Yeah, it's going to be even more important to be focused. So that is a very nice segue, thank you, to the next slide. So the 80-20 rule is just a really handy one to pull out in lots of different situations, and I would suggest social media is one of those places where you've got 80% of your content is focused on your customer. So, and that can be showing that you understand their challenges, and potentially giving them insights into how they can overcome those problems, to show that you are a person of expertise, or your business has the expertise to help. So even though that's not necessarily a straight advertising post, it still has an element of conveying your value, and still is in some ways a post that helps promote your business. So there's 6 different types of social media content there that you can use to create your framework. So entertainment, competitions, memes, jokes, fun, giveaways. There's actually some pretty phenomenal results about quizzes and how well quizzes do to create engagement. So if you're thinking about doing a survey, don't do a quiz. That's not always the case, but just if you look at the pure stats of what's working, you'd suggest that if you can somehow change that survey into a quiz format, you might get better results. Inspiration, so quotes, facts, customer success stories. If you've got reviews on Google, they're great social media posts to be putting up to share and celebrate and thank people for taking the time to leave you with reviews. Education, as I said, informative posts, make it entertaining. It can so that they engage with it and they watch for longer. Carousels, so carousel style posts, we see people using those a little bit more because, again, it encourages people to click and engage and slide through. Connections, so behind the scenes product reviews, create those relationships and deepen the connection that your customer has with your business. And then, of course, promotions, client testimonials, webinars, products, discounts and services. And as I said, this is really general because everyone here has got a very different business. You might have a different customer base. So use this as inspiration and pay attention to what does work and what doesn't with your audience. Now, ChatGPT is something that, having said all that, has absolutely made a massive difference in what we're all doing in terms of the way we create content. Just throw in the chat and just give us a yes or a no. Who is using ChatGPT or another generative AI to help them create social media content right now? Rod straight in there with a yes. Erin, a no. Linda's yes.
I was going to say
sorry.
I've used it to find catchy titles to my YouTube videos and that, just, you know, and if I don't like it, I say, no, give me another 5. And it's like, yeah, sure. I have a little conversation with it sometimes.
Yeah. And you can literally have a conversation with it now because on your mobile phone, if you've got the app on there, you can actually talk with it and have a conversation with it.
Okay.
So if you don't want to be sitting at your desk creating social media content, you can go and ask ChatGPT to create 5 social media posts on, you know, a specific problem that your audience might be having. And it can come up with a range of, if you give it information about who your audience is, ask it to create it in Australian English, otherwise you get Zs all the way through everything. Tone of voice, so are you professional, helpful, are you fun, are you friendly? Give it that sort of prompts. It can really help. I've put a link there and a QR code that goes to Social Bee. It's got a free AI post generator, so you can go and use that. That's actually created by a social media management tool so that you can create social media posts. But you can generally get a sequence of posts out of ChatGPT quite easily. And if there's a little bit of time at the end, what I'll do is I'll jump into ChatGPT and we can have a little bit of fun with it if people are interested. The other way generative AI and AI is helping is it's helping us in our social media management tools. So I'm not sure whether many people here have a social media management tool. What it can help you do is if you batch create your content, so perhaps you create 12 posts at the start of the month, you can go and schedule them. You don't have to use a social media management tool for that. You can actually schedule posts in pretty much every platform just within the social media tool itself. So you can batch create your content, you can schedule it. That doesn't mean you can't monitor it. Please do go and actively monitor and engage on your social media. So if people are commenting, that you comment back and engage, because again, that will help with the algorithms. But it can help you batch create content, and your social media management tool now uses AI and big data to help suggest times at which will be optimal for you to post, and you can schedule your setup, and it will help you set up your schedule so that you're posting at optimal times for your audience as well. So it's another way that AI is giving us a really big help from a social media point of view. And of course, if you're doing social media in this way, your chances of getting distracted, being on the platform and going down a rabbit hole and losing an hour reduces. So it gives you a bit of a productivity lift up as well. Is anyone using a social media management tool at the moment?
No, and I was just wondering what was this one? I didn't know that these were available.
So this is Social Bee. This is the one that I happen
to... right, the one from the previous post.
Yeah, so, you know, there's a lot. There's Buffer, there's Hootsuite. There's so many different ones. They vary in complexity. Pricing will vary depending on how many social media platforms you have. And if you are a bit of a serial entrepreneur and you might have maybe 2 different brands, and you might then have 2 different sets of social media accounts for the 2 different brands, some will, you know, you can find yourself paying a lot of money because you've got a few different accounts. So if you are going to evaluate them, have a look at those. Social Bee, one of the reasons I use Social Bee, just to give you guys some quick insights, Hootsuite literally has a university now to help educate people. So if you're a professional social media manager, then you might be looking to use ones that are more designed for some of the ones that are well known are more designed for people that are in social media or marketing comms teams or even agencies. Social Bee has got a key feature which is really important to me, and that is it lets me recycle content. So if I've created content, like a quote tile, for example, and I know that I just want it to be shown every 3 months or to go up regularly, so I don't have to think about coming back in and batch scheduling more, I can use that one piece of content ongoing without having to put any more time or effort into it. So it's that was a key difference for me, because a lot of the ones that do have that feature are more expensive. So think about what you need, whether you need it to be able to easily schedule posts and reels and stories and has a great workflow for that, or whether you're more interested in a platform that really helps with TikTok. Or so different platforms have got different strengths. So sometimes your social media management tool choice will depend a little bit on your social media platforms and the content that you're using as well. Yes, it can be a simple spreadsheet similar to what I actually have if anyone's interested, please just shoot me an email after this. I'm very happy to share. I've got a template, which, so with social media being with a lot of them, what you can do is you can create the spreadsheet and you can just import it again to help you batch create content, which makes it much simpler. So making social media easier, social media management platforms do. If you're at the point where you want to spend less time doing it and you want to make that investment, I highly recommend it. It's something that just frees up your time. And it gives you a lot of analytics in one place from aggregating it from all of your different social media channels. So if you've got multiple and you want to see those statistics in one place, it can help with that. So then you know how to do more of what's working. Make it easy. And of course, if you are working with an agency, they'll have this for you and you probably don't need to worry about it. Making it easy for customer supporters to mention and recommend you. So as I mentioned, even if Facebook or Instagram is not your primary channel, having a profile and just having kind of an automated publishing schedule so it doesn't look like it's out of date and not up to date means that at least people can mention you on those channels for word of mouth and recommendations. Working with professionals definitely makes making social media easier because you don't have to do massive learning curves. It's their job to be the experts, and it can free up your time to work on it in your business. Batch content creation so that you are doing deep focused work and you don't lose time to platforms that are designed to help you lose time. And network and support each other. So follow each other, share each other's content, help each other create more reach, and send the email request to Transcend if you would like that spreadsheet. So key takeaways, know what your goals are, know your audience, keep your branding consistent. Social media trends can help you plan the next steps, but please don't get distracted by bright, shiny tactics and secret sauce sellers. There is not one secret magic solution that is going to be the one thing that's going to get you. It's often going to be a collection of things. Think about that overall marketing mix. Keep it simple and focused. And word of mouth is really still powerful. Social media was designed to be and was initially called social networking because it is a great networking tool. So developing good relations and relationships is smart marketing. And as I said at the start, we help businesses that are mission, vision, and values driven. We have a mission to create positive impact ourselves. So thank you, because simply by being part of today's workshop, you're going to help us create more positive impact. And before we get into Q&As, just like to make the really simple offer. If you've got questions, pitch free, no obligation, simple 20-minute phone call, and we'll happily have a conversation as I choke. I thought I'd be able to get through this one without a cough. But anyone is very welcome to take up that opportunity so that we can talk more specifically about your situation. Because as I said, social media, there's so many options, and the advice that I'd give each of you would be probably very nuanced and different. Well, there's some things like short form video content that works pretty much across the board. There are specific strategies, tactics, and actions that I recommend in different situations based on your audience and your context, what stage of the business journey you are at. So if you'd like to take advantage of that, just go to rebex.com.au, book a call. And now I'll open up the question. If there's any more questions, please go ahead and ask. For those part of the Transcend community, yes, we do have a special offer. It's in addition to this free session, we've also got an opportunity for people who would like to clarify their messaging to help connect with more customers. And I will share some information in an email that one might send out to you. I asked very nicely. Is there any questions? Is there anything that you'd like to cover that I haven't covered? If not, we might go into Slido, and I'd love to hear what your key takeaways were from today, or any insights, ideas that this has prompted.
I did want to know, Instagram I used to do quite well, but since Meta took over, I've found that I don't get the same traction on there anymore, so I've got a bit lazy with it. But I've stuck on like 4,800 subscribers or something for the last 2 years, and I'm not quite sure why everything has changed on there. And yeah.
And how much are you using short form video content?
No, not on there.
So we've seen a big shift in Instagram towards people using stories and reels and engaging that way rather than with image-based posts.
Okay.
So that might be something that it's worth looking into. Thanks, Connie. The description page of social media marketing platforms was helpful information. I hope that helped you as well. The other thing from an Instagram point of view, very much in stories and reels at the moment, but also consider whether there's a change in where your audience might be hanging out as a result of changes in the platform. Are they still there and actively engaging? Or if you're finding results in other channels and that's working for you, doing more of that can be really useful. Any other questions?
Xanthi, I'm going to book in because I need to talk to you. But I just find this whole concept of you've got to work out your customer journey and then you've got to do this bit, that whole strategy piece is what is missing from my perspective. I'm not a massive social media user. It's something that I know I need to learn to love. So thank you for today, just going through that. That's great.
Oh, great. I'm glad that was useful. Thank you very much. That's lovely. And yeah, please do. It is literally pitch free, no obligation. It's just there to help you. I know what it's like trying to navigate through this. I do it with a lot of businesses and organisations, and finding the right strategies and tactics. Once you find them, you can get great results. And once you've got an audience that's just engaging, who's at that place where they put a post up and they get engagement straight away and they know it's working? And they're starting to just do a little bit more of that.
Yeah, I found that once I started getting monetized on YouTube, I don't know whether they advertised me more, but I went from like 2,000 to 10,000 subscribers pretty quickly, like in the last 5 or 6 months. So yeah, but sometimes you don't know like what sets things off. I've got one video that does really well, but when I look at the analytics of it, a lot of people have left it, like 56% are still watching in 30 seconds, and yet that's the one YouTube keeps showing everyone, whereas some of my other ones, get longer engagement from people.
Yeah, it's in, the algorithms are the algorithms, and sometimes you see they're going, how did that happen? With those videos, the one that's done well, have you found there's been, like when you look at the likes and the comments, has there been quite a lot of activity there?
It showed that I got like 1,500 new subscribers from it, but I don't, I think originally, because I did it over a year ago, I got lots of comments, but then as time goes on, comments seem to get less, even though the views are still there.
Yeah. So the other thing, and one of the things people talk about a lot is, and I really encourage people to think about that. If you're creating content, there's times when it's great to jump on an emerging trend and to talk about it, and that can be really good, but also create content that's going to stand the test of time. Because then you'll have a longer lifespan out of it. I don't know, I'm not sort of specifically referring to that video, but it's worth thinking about in your marketing mix. If you can use something and create something, you know, for a lot of people at this time of year, I'm really encouraging them to create, for example, a template in Canva that clearly shows their opening hours over Christmas, and, you know, wishing everyone well, doing celebratory posts for the year that was, as a relationship building exercise. And a lot of that stuff, you know, next year, Christmas is going to happen again, and you can use that again. You might need to tweak the dates a little bit, but again, creating that once, then using it again, as opposed to, oh, it's Christmas time, I'm going to go create something new next year. You know, there's key dates each year that happen every year, and you can create content around that, and it can have a longer lifespan. But also between that, you can create content that stands the test of time versus stuff that can only be used once. So including what I call perennial content. So for anyone who's a vegetable gardener, you know, you put tomatoes in every year and you've got to pull them out every year and put a new tomato in every year. But there's plants that you can put in, and they just, once they're in, they're just going to produce you a crop each year, like apples. You don't need to do the replanting exercise. So with your content, just have a think about ads. That might be a bit of a way to work smarter rather than harder.
Last question. All righty. Thank you, Xanthi. I'm sure on behalf of everybody, there's been an aha of some description. I think the key things that, you know, we reinforce in our advisory is that you really do have to know your customer. Mm-hmm. If you don't know your customer, you're shooting bullets and you don't know what the target is that you're trying to hit. The other thing that became very clear in Xanthi's presentation was, you know, are we using our time effectively? You know, we can waste a hell of a lot of time on these platforms. So you really look at, you know, every hour that you're spending and ask the question, are we getting the payback for what we're doing here? And if you don't know what you're doing, ask somebody for help. This is a time waster. If you want to lose time, this is a perfect way to lose it, and you're not focusing on the critical things in your business, which is getting out there and generating revenue. Mm-hmm. So again, thanks, Xanthi.